The galaxy was a wide ocean of stars, filled with hundreds of intelligent civilizations. For centuries it lived under a fragile balance of fear. The strongest of them all, the Virak Dominion, ruled through terror. The Virak were not the largest in number, but they had something no other race dared to match: endless cruelty paired with unmatched weapons. Entire planets had fallen before their fleets, and entire cultures had been erased from history. Their reputation was their sharpest blade. When the Virak arrived, most surrendered without firing a shot. The Dominion called this peace. To everyone else, it was submission. On a quiet day in galactic history, the Dominion decided to remind the galaxy who held power. They released their newest weapon, one they had built in silence for decades. It was called the Solar Reaper, a colossal warship armed with a beam strong enough to strip the surface of a planet in hours. The first victim was Thalos Prime, a neutral colony world far from Earth. Thalos Prime was not a military base. It was a cultural hub, a shining city world where hundreds of alien species traded, studied, and lived side by side. Artists painted its towers with glowing patterns. Students filled its universities. Families walked its great crystal plazas. It was a place untouched by war, a rare jewel in a violent galaxy. And then it was gone. The Virak descended without warning. The Solar Reaper fired once and the seas boiled. Forests and plains turned to ash. By the end of the day, there was nothing left but blackened stone and drifting corpses in orbit. No fleet had defended it. No warriors had died in battle. The world had been erased as easily as a candle flame snuffed out by wind. When the Dominion sent out their official message, it was simple. This is the price of disobedience. The galaxy trembled. Whole governments whispered of surrender before the Virak even looked their way. Smaller civilizations rushed to send tribute, food, and ships as offerings to avoid sharing Thalos Prime's fate. No one wanted to be next. But the message also reached Earth. Humanity had only recently joined galactic society. They were still considered newcomers, brash and reckless. The great elder races viewed them with caution and sometimes mockery. To many, humans were too emotional, too unpredictable, and far too violent. They were tolerated, but never respected. At the United Earth Embassy on the neutral station of Velos, ambassadors from dozens of worlds gathered to debate what to do. Most of the delegates were pale with fear. Some shouted that the Virak must be appeased. Others suggested evacuating border worlds and sacrificing weaker systems to buy time. The air was thick with panic. The human representative, Ambassador Elena Ruiz, sat in silence for most of the meeting. She listened as one alien minister after another spoke of surrender, her hands folded calmly on the table. Finally, the Virak envoy arrived. A tall, armored creature with scales that shimmered like obsidian. He placed a hollow image of Thalos Prime's ruins in the center of the chamber. His words were slow and heavy, filled with pride. Let this serve as a reminder. Those who resist us will burn. Those who obey will be spared. Choose wisely. The chamber fell into silence. Many alien leaders lowered their eyes. Then Elena Ruiz stood. Her voice was steady, almost casual. On behalf of Earth, she said, message received. The Virak envoy sneered. And will your little species obey? Or will you burn next? Elena allowed herself a small, cold smile. Neither, she said. We will fight. The room erupted into chaos. Delegates cried out in shock. A minister from the Kayari Union shouted that humans were insane. A diplomat from the Varel Alliance demanded that Earth withdraw the statement immediately, but the human ambassador did not move. She only repeated the words firmly so all could hear. Tell your masters this. Humanity will never kneel. The Virak envoy laughed, deep and cruel, before leaving the chamber, but as the echo of his laughter faded, many in the room felt a shiver run down their spines. There had been no fear in the human's voice, only certainty. Back on Earth, the news of Thalos Prime struck like lightning. People filled the streets in mourning, but not for long. Unlike other civilizations, humanity had a long history of enduring wars, disasters, and near extinction. From the fires of their own world wars, to the black plagues of old Earth, to the scars of famine and struggle, humans had been tempered like steel and fire. And now, they had found a reason to fight harder than ever before. In the headquarters of the United Earth Defense Fleet, General Marcus Hale stood before his commanders. He was a man carved from discipline, his gray hair close-cropped, his voice low but commanding. On the massive screen behind him, images of Thalos Prime burned. "This is what they have done," he said. "This is what they will do again unless we stop them. The Viric believe fear will keep us silent. They are wrong. They have given us what we were waiting for." One young officer asked the question everyone carried in their hearts. "What are we waiting for, sir?" General Hale's lips curved into something between a grin and a snarl. "A reason," he said. Preparation began. The speed of it shocked the galaxy. Where other civilizations hesitated, humanity moved. Shipyards across Mars and Titan came alive with fire and steel. Massive orbital factories lit up the dark with the glow of construction. Old warships, once decommissioned, were dragged from scrapyards and rebuilt with new armor. Entire industries shifted overnight from commerce to weapons, but it wasn't only ships. Humanity had studied the galaxy carefully since first contact. They had learned what was forbidden: gravity-based weaponry, viral AI programs, planetary railguns. All banned by treaty, all left forgotten. Humans had copied the blueprints and hidden them. Now every secret project was pulled from the shadows. The galaxy thought humanity was unprepared. In truth, Earth had been preparing from the moment they met the Virac. Meanwhile, among ordinary people there was no fear. There was anger, yes, grief, yes, but beneath it a dangerous energy spread. Workers volunteered to work double shifts in the shipyards. Farmers donated food to the military. Entire universities turned into research labs. Even criminals in prison offered to fight if it meant revenge. For the first time in centuries, Earth was united. Not out of politics, not out of fear, but out of fury. News traveled fast. Alien spies carried whispers of what humanity was building. Other governments scoffed. Some shook their heads in pity. "The humans are fools," said one elder race. "They cannot possibly face the Dominion." But in the back rooms of alien politics, in the shadows of fearful empires, other voices whispered something different. "They are reckless," one said. "They are dangerous," said another. "But perhaps they are exactly what we need." For every civilization terrified of the Dominion, there was a spark of hope watching humanity. A dangerous hope, but hope nonetheless. The first test came sooner than expected. A Virac raiding fleet struck at Asteron 4, a rim-world colony not far from human space. They expected surrender. They expected silence. What they found instead was a human fleet waiting for them. And for the first time in galactic history, the Virac would learn what it meant when humanity smiled and said, "Finally." A reason. The Dominion had ruled for centuries through fear, and for centuries fear had worked. When the Virac attacked a world, surrender was the only option. No one fought back. No one dared. That is why the Virac believed the war on Asteron 4 would be routine. It was a rich colony world on the rim of explored space, home to merchants, miners, and a small mix of alien settlers. A perfect target. Asteron 4 had no fleet, no defenses strong enough to stop even a single Dominion cruiser. The Virac arrived with a force of 15 warships. Their commanders expected another quick victory. Slaves would be taken, the mines seized, and the planet burned just enough to leave fear behind. But when they entered orbit, they found something waiting. The trap, a human fleet of only 8 ships, sat in the shadow of Asteron 4's largest moon. They were smaller than the Virac warships, but they moved with strange precision, like wolves circling prey. The Virac commander laughed when he saw them. "Pathetic," he told his crew. 8 ships against 15. The humans think they are strong, but they are nothing. The battle began with the Dominion's usual show of power. They fired long-range plasma cannons, their beams tearing through space. The blast should have crippled the human ships instantly, but the humans did not fight the way the Dominion expected. Instead of trading shots directly, the human fleet split apart. They scattered in every direction, weaving through asteroid fields and using the planet's gravity to slingshot around. The Virac tried to follow, but their heavier ships struggled. Then the traps were sprung. Human engineers had hidden gravity mines across the system, weapons banned by galactic treaties. When the Virac warships chased the smaller human frigates, they drifted straight into the mines. The devices exploded with crushing waves that bent space and twisted metal. 2 Dominion cruisers were ripped apart before they realized what had happened. Next came the asteroids. The humans had dragged huge rocks into firing position long before the battle. At a signal, hidden railguns launched the asteroids forward at incredible speed. 1 Dominion destroyer was smashed apart instantly, torn into molten shards. For the first time in centuries, the Vyrek faced panic. Dirty fighting. The Dominion expected honorable duels of ships trading heavy fire. The humans gave them none. Instead, human ships hacked into Vyrek communications, filling their channels with static, false orders, and even recordings of screaming voices to rattle their nerves. Small human corvettes darted between the massive cruisers, planting magnetic charges on their hulls before slipping away. One Vyrek captain shouted in fury as alarms filled his bridge. "This is not war. This is trickery!" But the tricks worked. One by one, Dominion ships fell, the turning point. The final blow came when the human flagship UES Resolute emerged from the moon's shadow. It carried a weapon thought impossible, a railgun so large it spanned the entire length of the ship. With a thunderous roar, it fired a tungsten slug the size of a shuttle. The projectile crossed space in seconds and punched straight through the Dominion flagship. The warship split in half, venting fire and bodies into the void. The Dominion fleet broke. 4 ships managed to escape into hyperspace. The rest were destroyed. The humans had lost 2 ships, but the price was worth it. For the first time, the Vyrek Dominion had been defeated in open battle. Shockwaves. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, leaders, soldiers, and civilians watched recordings of the human victory. Some were horrified. They whispered that humanity was reckless, dangerous, and unstable. If humans were willing to use weapons banned by treaty, what else might they unleash? But others felt something different: hope. The Dominion was not invincible after all. Someone had stood against them and won. On planets enslaved by the Dominion, people whispered the word humans like a prayer. On neutral worlds, young officers studied human tactics, wondering if their own fleets could copy them. The galaxy had been shaken awake. The Dominion's rage on Vyrek Prime. The Dominion's rulers watched the reports in disbelief. The High Lord of the Dominion slammed his claws against his throne. "Primitive vermin," he roared. "How dare they resist us? How dare they humiliate us before the galaxy?" The ruling council begged him to respond carefully, but he would hear none of it. No one humiliates the Dominion. If humanity wants war, then war they shall have. And so the Dominion declared Earth a priority target. Fleets were gathered, armies were prepared. Every enslaved world was ordered to supply troops and weapons. The Dominion thought they were preparing to crush a nuisance. In truth, they were walking into a storm. Humanity's preparation on Earth, the victory at Asteron 4, only hardened resolve. Factories worked without pause, building warships, drones, and weapons. The military's scientists unlocked secret projects once hidden away. One was Project Phantom, a stealth ship designed to vanish from sensors completely. Another was Project Titan, a plan to build a warship the size of a small moon. Ordinary people joined the effort. Families knitted clothing for soldiers. Schools taught children how to work machinery for the war effort. Even music and art changed, filled with songs and paintings of determination. For the first time, humanity had found a common enemy to unite against: the gravediggers. While fleets prepared in space, humanity's ground forces trained for something different. They called themselves the gravediggers. These soldiers were not just fighters. They were engineers, saboteurs, and survivalists. Their job was to turn every battlefield into a trap. If the Dominion landed on a planet, the gravediggers would make sure they regretted it. Their motto was simple: if they want hell, we'll dig it for them. Alien reactions. Not every species celebrated humanity's rise. The elder races of the Galactic Council were uneasy. At a private meeting, one alien leader said, "The Vyrek are monsters, yes, but humans may become something worse. They enjoy this war too much," another replied. "Perhaps, but if we do nothing, the Dominion will consume us all. Better humans than slavery." For the first time in living memory, the galaxy was divided, not just in fear of the Dominion, but in fear of what humanity might become. Humanity's broadcast general Hale decided the galaxy needed to hear from Earth directly. A message was sent, carried across every network to every star system. The general stood in his uniform, gray hair sharp against the black background. His voice was steady, clear, and cold. "People of the galaxy," he said, "the Dominion believes fear will keep us silent. They are wrong. We will not kneel. We will not beg. We will not stop. They unleashed hell. We are humanity, And we say, finally a reason to get nasty. The message ended. Across the galaxy, billions sat in silence. A new phase. The war had changed. It was no longer a slow spread of fear. It was fire. Humanity had lit it, and now it was spreading. The Vyrek were enraged, but humanity was ready. The galaxy stood on the edge of something it had never seen before. A true fight. Not for tribute, not for survival, but for freedom. And at the center of it all stood Earth, scarred but grinning like wolves. The Dominion thought they had unleashed hell. They had no idea what was coming. The war was no longer a shadow whispered in fear. It had become fire, and that fire spread across the galaxy. The Virac Dominion, insulted by their defeat at Asteron 4, launched a campaign of terror. Fleets of warships swept across border space, striking not only at human colonies but also at neutral worlds. They burned cities, shattered moons, and enslaved entire populations. Every attack was meant to send a message. Resistance was hopeless, but humanity refused to bow. Humanity strikes back. The United Earth Defense Fleet grew stronger with every passing month. Shipyards on Mars, Titan, and the asteroid belt glowed like stars as warships rolled off the assembly lines. Some were massive carriers built to launch swarms of drones. Others were fast attack ships armed with stealth and heavy cannons. Unlike other civilizations, humanity fought with an old truth. Wars were not won by fighting fair. Wars were won by fighting smart, dirty, and relentless. So, instead of defending passively, humanity struck back. On the mining world of Dravo 6, Vyrek soldiers marched confidently into the tunnels expecting easy conquest. But the tunnels collapsed around them, detonated by human explosives. Entire battalions were buried alive, and the survivors found themselves hunted by gravediggers. The soldiers who thought themselves predators became prey in the darkness. On the frozen planet Yelros, Dominion ships landed to claim resources, but when they tried to depart, they discovered their fuel supplies had been poisoned. Their engines failed in mid-flight, and human railguns hidden beneath the ice fired upward, cutting the stranded ships apart. Everywhere the Dominion struck, humanity answered with something crueler, sharper, and smarter. The Gravediggers' legacy on worlds where the Dominion tried to establish control. The Gravediggers made sure every step forward was pain. They built traps disguised as ruined machinery. They mined food supplies. They lured soldiers into ghost towns and then collapsed entire blocks on top of them. But they also armed the people. Civilians once too afraid to resist were given weapons and training. Farmers became snipers. Miners became demolition experts. Children became couriers carrying secret messages through the ruins. The Dominion soon learned that conquering a human world was not victory. It was the beginning of endless nightmares. The price of war victory, however, came at a heavy cost. The Dominion's wrath fell hardest on Earth itself. Using hidden routes, a strike fleet broke through human defenses and bombarded the planet. Cities burned. Skyscrapers collapsed. Millions died in a single day. General Hale stood in the underground command bunker of New Geneva, his jaw tight as the screens showed flames rising from his homeworld. Around him, officers fought back tears as reports came in. "Sir," one said, "we've lost half the eastern seaboard. Civilian casualties are in the millions." For a long moment, the room was silent. Then Hale spoke, his voice steady, cold, and hard. "Then we make them pay tenfold," the order went out. Every human fleet prepared to retaliate. The galaxy watches, the galaxy was torn. Some races watched in horror, fearing that the war would consume them all. Others began to see hope in humanity's fury. If the Vyrek could bleed, maybe freedom was possible. Whispers spread across enslaved worlds. In secret caves and cellars, people lit candles and spoke of the humans. They told stories of the battle at Asteron, of the gravediggers who turned planets into traps, of the broadcasts declaring defiance. And then, something unexpected happened. Small rebellions began to spark. On one Dominion world, miners refused to work. On another, slaves stole weapons and fought back. They were crushed, but the spark had been lit. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion was no longer feared as unstoppable. The Siege of Calros. The turning point came at the Siege of Calros, a system deep within contested space. The Dominion had established a massive shipyard there, building warships faster than humanity could destroy them. If left alone, it would overwhelm Earth's fleets. Humanity gathered everything it had. Fleets from Earth, Mars, and Titan combined into one massive armada. Even ships from neutral civilizations secretly joined, manned by captains willing to gamble their lives for a chance to see the Dominion fall. The battle lasted 3 days. On the first day, Dominion fleets poured out of Calros in endless waves. Human ships fought desperately, weaving in and out of fire. On the second day, the gravediggers struck planetside. They infiltrated the shipyard itself, planting explosives and using captured Virak weapons against their masters. On the third day, the sky burned. Explosions tore through the shipyard, sending massive warships tumbling into the planet's atmosphere. The human fleet pushed forward, railguns and missiles shattering the last Dominion defenders. When it was over, Calros was nothing but fire and wreckage. Humanity had destroyed the Dominion's greatest weapon factory. Hope and fear. The victory at Calros sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Entire species celebrated in secret. On enslaved worlds, riots broke out. On free worlds, young leaders began speaking openly of rebellion. But not everyone was pleased. The elder races of the Galactic Council grew nervous. In private meetings, they whispered, "Humanity is dangerous. They fight like no one else. They enjoy this war too much." Some wondered if humanity, once finished with the Dominion, would turn their new weapons on the rest of the galaxy. Humanity's resolve back on Earth, amidst the rubble and ruins of the bombardment, humanity rebuilt. Cities were scarred, millions were gone, but the people refused to break. Children played among the ruins, drawing pictures of warships defeating the Virak. Survivors dug through ashes, not with despair but with determination. General Hale addressed the survivors in a broadcast. His uniform was singed, his eyes weary but burning with fire. "We do not fight for peace," he said. "We do not fight for safety. We fight so that no one, not the Virak, not anyone, will ever dare to do this again. We will fight until the Dominion is ashes, and then we will fight to make sure no tyrant ever rises again." His words spread far beyond Earth. To many across the galaxy, they were terrifying. To others, they were the most hopeful words ever spoken. Fire across the stars, the war spread wider. Humanity launched attacks deeper into Dominion space. They struck supply lines, star bases, and communication hubs. Everywhere they went, they left fire behind. Not just destruction, but rebellion. Liberated worlds raised human flags beside their own. People once too afraid to whisper against the Dominion now shouted openly. The Dominion, enraged, fought harder, but their grip was slipping. The more they crushed, the more resistance grew. For centuries, the Dominion had been the terror of the stars. Now, for the first time, they were the ones afraid. The galaxy was burning, and at the center of the fire, humanity fought with a grin. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had risen from a dismissed newcomer to the central force that now challenged the Virak Dominion. Every battle had been brutal, every strike clever and unrelenting. Entire worlds were scarred, and yet humanity had grown stronger. The Dominion, once feared without question, now trembled in its own halls. The time had come. Humanity was ready for the final campaign. Preparing the final strike, at Earth's orbital command center, General Marcus Hale stood before a massive holographic map of the Dominion's core systems. His eyes scanned every star, every fleet position, and every weak point in the Dominion's defenses. The human fleet was assembled in orbit, thousands of ships, carriers, stealth frigates, and battleships. Even neutral allies who had quietly joined now marched alongside humanity. "This is it," Hale said, his voice low but commanding. "The Dominion believes themselves untouchable. They believe they can strike fear and survive. We are going to show them that fear can be returned tenfold." Engineers finalized the last of humanity's deadliest weapons, planet-cracking kinetic strikes, designed not to kill civilians but to destroy fleets and starbases in orbit. Stealth ships were prepared to infiltrate command centers. Gravediggers were ready to land on every occupied Dominion planet to sabotage and liberate. For the first time, humanity was not reacting. Humanity was striking. The invasion begins. The campaign began with Virak Prime, the heart of the Dominion. Every fleet humanity had was gathered to ensure a decisive blow. As the humans entered the system, the Dominion scrambled every ship they had left. They thought they could repel this new assault. but even the largest of their warships were outdated compared to humanity's modern fleet. Missiles streaked across space. Railguns fired with terrifying precision. Stealth corvettes appeared where the Dominion least expected them, cutting through shields before vanishing. Every move the Dominion tried to make was anticipated. For hours, battle raged across the orbit of Virac Prime. The sky of space burned red from explosions, debris spinning like deadly stars. Every Virac commander believed victory was still possible, until their fleets began disappearing one by one. Liberation of the worlds. While the main battle consumed the Dominion's attention, human forces and allied rebels struck across occupied worlds. On the planet Zerath, a Dominion mining colony, humans landed in the dead of night. Gravediggers disabled orbital defenses, opened supply caches, and armed the enslaved population. For the first time in generations, the people of Zerath fought openly against their oppressors. By sunrise, the Dominion had lost control entirely. On Dravos, a planet previously scarred by Virac brutality, civilians rose up as human special forces infiltrated key command centers. Explosions rocked cities, Dominion officers were captured or eliminated, and soon the planet declared independence. Across the Dominion's occupied territories, rebellion spread like wildfire. Humanity was not just fighting battles, they were igniting hope. The fall of the Virac fleets. By the second week, the Dominion's remaining fleets were scattered and disorganized. Humanity's ships hunted them relentlessly. Every escape route was blocked, every supply line cut. The Dominion's finest captains were killed or captured. The humans had mastered every form of warfare. Stealth attacks, electronic warfare, kinetic bombardments, orbital sieges, all were used in coordination that the Virac could never have imagined. Even the High Lord himself began to fear. Reports of captured officers, destroyed fleets, and liberated worlds filled his halls. For the first time, he questioned whether the Dominion could survive. The siege of Virac Prime. The final assault on Virac Prime was unlike any battle in galactic history. Humanity's largest ships formed a massive blockade around the planet. The orbital kinetic strikes were prepared to dismantle the Dominion's remaining fleet. Gravediggers and human marines descended upon the planet itself, targeting command centers, weapons factories, and fleet docks. The streets of the capital city were filled with fire, but the human soldiers moved with precision. They liberated civilians, destroyed war machines, and sabotaged every major system. The High Lord, watching from his palace, realized the end had come. His armies were crushed, his fleets destroyed, his enslaved worlds in open rebellion. He sent a desperate message to General Hale. "Cease. We surrender." Hale considered it. The galaxy had suffered for centuries under the Dominion. Humanity had lost millions. Entire worlds had been destroyed. Yet the human general did not gloat. His voice was calm, but it carried finality. "This is the price of unleashing hell," he said. And then the final strike began. The reckoning, in orbit above Virac Prime. Humanity unleashed the planet-cracking kinetic weapons. Colossal projectiles ripped through space at unimaginable speeds. They targeted fleet formations, orbital docks, and key defense stations. Each strike obliterated entire battle groups. The sky burned with explosions, metal and fire spinning into the void. Below, the planet's surface shook as massive gravedigger teams completed their missions. The Dominion's command centers were destroyed, leaving their rulers powerless. Every enslaved population was freed. Every weapon turned against its master. The Dominion's High Lord attempted to escape in his flagship, but even he could not avoid humanity's precise assault. His ship was disabled, boarded, and captured. The centuries of tyranny ended not with negotiation, but with decisive action. The aftermath, when the fires cleared, the galaxy was silent. The Dominion was no more. Its fleets destroyed, its armies defeated, its rulers captured or gone. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy could breathe without fear. Humanity stood at the center, battered but unbroken. Millions of human lives had been lost, and Earth bore scars from Virac retaliation, yet the people celebrated with grim satisfaction. They had paid a high price, but they had won. In liberated worlds, humans were hailed not as conquerors, but as liberators. They had fought for survival, for revenge, and for freedom, not for dominion. Entire civilizations once enslaved joined humanity in rebuilding the galaxy. inspired by the human example of courage and determination. A changed galaxy. The elder races of the Galactic Council met after the war. For centuries they had feared humans. Now they respected them. Some feared what humanity might do next, knowing that humans had shown their capacity for both cunning and cruelty. Yet the humans made a promise. They would not become tyrants. They had fought monsters and they knew what it meant to lose control of power. Earth's leaders broadcast across the stars. We fought so no one would ever live in fear again. The galaxy is free. Let it remain that way. Humanity's place among the stars, humanity's rise had begun with defiance and ended with liberation. They had proven something no one expected, that even the youngest, smallest, or dismissed civilizations could face monsters and survive. General Hale stood once more before the human fleet, now orbiting the ruins of Vyrek Prime. His eyes swept across the stars. They thought we were weak, he said. They thought we would kneel. They thought fear would hold us. They were wrong. We are humanity, and we will always fight for freedom. The fleets cheered. The liberated worlds cheered. And for the first time, the galaxy believed that monsters could be defeated, and that humanity had the teeth to do it. The war was over. The Dominion was no more. Humanity had been tested in fire, and it had answered with strength, cunning, and courage. The stars were no longer quiet. They were alive with hope, rebellion, and a reminder. When the galaxy unleashed hell, humanity responded, and it was finally time to get really nasty.